to tech issues this evening. Here we go. So this is your warning to have your cameras off, or remember when you're doing audio, you may be captured, and we upload to YouTube. So welcome everyone to the March virtual membership meeting of the West Seattle Transportation Coalition. My name is Michael Taylor Judd, and I'm chair. And I will be kicking off things, and then we'll be joined by our co-chair, Kate Wells, or vice chair, Kate Wells, who will be facilitating parts of the meeting. Tonight's agenda, we'll do quick welcome and introductions. We don't actually have previous meeting minutes to approve, so we'll skip past that. But if folks want to find previous videos, unless you're already watching this on YouTube, you can go to youtube.com/@WestSeattleTC to find a few years now of meetings and a few in-person workshops and other things that we've done. We will then get underway very quickly with a conversation with the Seattle Department of Transportation, talking about the East Marginal Way Corridor Improvement Project with a really long website to go to for more information. And then we will follow that up shortly thereafter with a conversation with staff from City Councilmember Rob Saka's office, where we will be talking about his work as the Transportation Committee Chair to get the Seattle Transportation Plan passed. Council will be pretty soon this year taking up discussions of the renewal of the Move Seattle Levy and any other transportation, city transportation issues that come up. You can find more information about Councilmember Saka at his City Council website. And then we'll get to old business, new business, talk about, we've got a bunch of things slated coming up for our next meeting in May, including nominations and board elections. Have some talk about future meeting topics, adjourn by 8:30. My guess is the way our agenda is floating, unless we really get into some meaty subjects with our guests, that we will end before 8:30, but we'll see how that goes. If you've not been with us before, or you're just joining us on YouTube for the first time, the West Seattle Transportation Coalition is a peninsula-wide organization working to address transportation and commuting challenges for the nearly 100,000 people living and working on the West Seattle Peninsula. We accomplish this by securing support of residents, engaging elected officials at all levels to make improvements for transportation. We partner with government agencies to achieve good outcomes for the peninsula, like Sound Transit, like Washington State Ferries, talking to folks like Seattle Department of Transportation, like we are tonight. And we also engage with businesses, community organizations, other neighborhood groups and such to educate and collect feedback. Our goals are affordable and equitable transportation options, particularly in historically underserved neighborhoods, a transportation network that moves people and goods in an environmentally sustainable manner, and investments in transportation infrastructure that match Seattle's growth. Our priorities for this year, 2024, are to continue supporting Sound Transit 3's planning, education, and outreach. We are continuing to monitor SR 160's, the Fauntleroy Ferry Terminal Trestle and Span Replacement Project. One of our board members is a member of the Community of Steering Group or something? I forget exactly the name. Maybe Kate will help me if she remembers. The East Marginal Way Corridor Improvement Project, specifically the protected bike lane. So we're excited to hear a brief update about that and how things will be kicking off soon there. We'll be talking a little bit later about some future meeting topic planning, about finally wrestling a little bit with King County Metro bus route planning and seeing what we can do to improve some of the routing here in West Seattle. And then finally, looking at, right now it says Move Seattle Levy renewal planning for the November ballot. We do know shortly here, after the Seattle Transportation Plan gets approved, SDOT should be transmitting their thoughts for the levy renewal over to council. And so we'll transition from planning to supporting the Seattle levy renewal, presumably, and hope to talk about that in a future meeting. Introductions. We do not ask everybody to introduce themselves on camera. We do have the chat should be available for everybody, so you can put your name there, any pronouns or access needs, what neighborhood in Seattle you're from. And tonight's introductory question is, name one thing you can do to support positive activism around transportation in our West Seattle neighborhoods. And before we move on and get underway, I kept this in from last time. Folks who've been biking and riding around, I haven't heard too many crazy things about the detour here. While there's work on the West Seattle Bridge Trail, I believe it is underway for at least another week. So if folks haven't had a chance to check that out, there you go. But that should be wrapped up here sometime in April. As I said, we don't have previous meeting minutes, but you can learn more at our YouTube spot or on Facebook, although tonight we are not, we're having some technical glitches, so we are not broadcasting live to Facebook, but when we do, those videos also get captured there as well. And then, oh, I threw this in before we jump into the meat of SDOT. If folks are wondering, how do I find out more about the Seattle Transportation Plan? There's a great blog entry from SDOT that came out on February 28th. The goals for Seattle in the plan highlight safety, equity, sustainability, mobility and economic vitality, livability, maintenance, and modernization. And you can go to that blog post to learn more and find out these lovely links where you can read part 1 and part 2. It's a really lengthy document if anyone hasn't seen it in person, but there's some great website tools to walk through, and there's been a lot of write-up, including by the West Seattle blog, the Urbanist, and a few others sort of breaking it down and looking at how it affects us over here in West Seattle. And then without further ado, our first guest with us this evening for a conversation with Seattle Department of Transportation are Joey Etkin, who's project manager, and Drew, Drew, I never know how to pronounce your last name. Is it Nienhuis, who's the outreach lead? You can find out more information there. And I am going to turn over to Kate to pick up facilitating and welcoming our guests.
Well, hello, welcome everybody. I'll take over for Michael for a little bit. And I think I am just going to actually turn it over to the SDOT crew. Drew, are you going to be speaking tonight first? Uh-oh. You're on mute. Are you unable to?
You should be able to unmute now, no? All right, so many technical things today. Let's try click here.
There we go.
All right.
Yay, wonderful. And do you have the power to share a screen? Do you have a
don't have that quite yet. I do have a presentation, but I don't have the sharing.
All right. Yet. You should be a co-host and have that now as well.
Awesome. Great.
Wonderful. I'm excited to hear about this project. I use the route as a cyclist now and then, and am really looking forward to what's going to happen to the road.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having us. My name is Drew Nienhuis. There we go. Drew Nienhuis, and I'm the outreach lead for this project. I always say how to remember my last name is how many who's in Whoville, 9 of them, because most people don't get it right at the first time. And then joining me today and we'll giving the bulk of the presentation will be Joey Etkin, who's our project manager. And so we're here to talk about the north segment of the East Marginal Way Corridor Improvement Project. And we always like to start off just with our mission, vision, values, and goals, which I'm sure this group is well familiar with, but just to remind everyone, we're about creating a Seattle that is thriving, equitable community powered by, a thriving, equitable community powered by dependable transportation, with a mission to deliver transportation systems that provide safe and affordable access to places and opportunity. And we do that by using our core values and goals to guide us of equity, safety, mobility, sustainability, livability, and excellence. And of course, through that, we have these wonderful partnerships with organizations like yours to help us meet those goals and stay true to our mission and values. So that's my spiel. I'll kick it over to Joey and I'll be back at the end here. Joey, you still having mute problems?
Oh no, Michael.
There we go. Thanks, Michael.
Hey.
Appreciate that. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold, so bear with me with my raspy voice. I'm not going to do as well as Drew does. But I'm Joey Aiken. I work in SDOT's Capital Project Management Group. And I've recently taken over a couple months ago the project manager role for the East Marginal Way project. Previously, it was Megan Hoyt. I don't know if you had any interactions with Megan, but she was amazing and has done an amazing job getting us, worked years to get us to where we are. So currently, our project overview, as you can see on the map, see if I can move this. There we go. As you can see on the map here, East Marginal Way, the project is broken up into 3 phases, 3 segments. There's the north segment in orange, the central segment in green, and the purple segment in is the south segment. So the point of the project obviously is to enhance the freight facility that goes through there, redo the roadway, but at the same time, and very importantly, is to separate the bikes from the freight. As anyone, I live in West Seattle, so anyone who bikes from West Seattle to downtown knows it is not the greatest road to bike on. So the project, as we can see here, the bullets is improve safety and reliability in the movement of people and goods, support freight loads by rebuilding East Marginal Way south to heavy haul standards, promote efficiency through signal mods, improving wayfinding, lighting, and intelligent transportation systems, and improve safety by separating people walking, biking, rolling, and from vehicle traffic. So we are we're putting in a lot of effort into this project. Do you want to click to the next slide, Drew? And probably even keep going through the next slide. Let's get an update. So I don't know if Kate or anyone else has gone down there lately, but our contractor has broken ground. Construction started March 11th. And with that, East Marginal Way, the first scope of work is going to be installing a new water line. But a big bulk of the work, as we know, is going to be reconstructing the whole roadway to heavy haul standards, which is 15-inch concrete panels all the way up from South Massachusetts down to South Spokane Street. And it's going to take us roughly 2 years. Within that, we're going to be, excuse me, installing some weigh in motion so the city can better manage freight access and freight deliveries. We'll revise intersections and driveways for safer turning and improve visibility at Terminal 25 South, Terminal 30. I'm sure as anyone again who's ridden a bike through there knows, visibility and dealing with the bikes out of the driveways is not the greatest. So we're going to improve on the visibility there and the design there. We can go to the next slide. So this is what we're, as I'm sure you guys know or care most about, this is the bulk of the project for you, which is adding in a 2-way protected bike lane. So the 2-way protected bike lane will be on the east side of East Marginal Way. And it's going to have a barrier separated between traffic and the 2-way PBL. And the 2-way PBL will run from South Spokane Street all the way up through Atlantic. It'll connect to the Portside Trail or the LA Bay Trail. It has many names. The bike path will be on the, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to speak up, but the bike path will be on the west side from Spokane to Hanford or Horton. And then at Horton, there's going to be a dedicated bike crossing that will get bikes over to the east side where they will be in the protected bike lane. And one thing that I'll mention about the bike lane, we're currently, we're still honestly working with the railroads, but one of the main things that this project did is we've worked with Union Pacific and Burlington and BNSF to relocate some of their tracks, which if anyone's ever worked with the railroads can be an endeavor. So we really prioritized and understood how important it is to get a two-way PBL that's barrier protected and get the real estate that we needed. So we went the extra mile to get the tracks moved, which I really commend Megan on, the previous project manager. I came on at the 11th hour and 59th minute, so it's easy for me to it was easy for me, let's just say that. And then the next slide is about pedestrian improvements. If you've walked down here as well, there's not sidewalk access to a lot of these spots. The curb ramps aren't ADA compliant. There's a lot of issues with walkability and access from east-west to First Avenue and the businesses there to East Marginal Way. So we are up and down the corridor. We are replacing all the curb ramps on every corner at every intersection to be ADA compliant, adding sidewalks. Yeah. And we can. So like I mentioned before, there will be a dynamic message sign that's down in the central segment. But the big part of the signal improvements is the Horton intersection, which is going to have dedicated bike phasing. I remember early on in the project, we were trying to figure out how best to address bikes getting from the west side to the east side. And there's a lot of studies done, and the best approach, which is really prioritizing the bicyclists, is to put a dedicated bike crossing there. Next slide. So what to expect during construction? Like I said, construction started March 11th. The first bit of work is going to be the water line that will start at Horton. So they've already started excavating and trenching at Horton, and they will work their way from Horton, go all the way up north to Massachusetts. And along the way, they'll do some drainage. The road won't be fully rebuilt until later this year or early next year is when they're really probably going to start working on it. The important thing to emphasize to the public right now is East Marginal Way is closed to general purpose traffic from Spokane Street to Massachusetts Street, and that's going to be closed to general purpose traffic for the duration of the project. So it's currently just open to freight and port traffic that need to access Terminal 25, Terminal 25 South, Terminal 30, and Terminal 46. And thankfully, not a lot of general purpose traffic's using this road, so it shouldn't impact too much. And it's better to just separate them completely. That way people aren't getting stuck in queue lines or getting confused with that. We will absolutely 100% be keeping detour routes and access through the duration of construction through the whole corridor for people walking, biking. We won't have detours for bikes or peds over to First or any of the streets off of East Marginal Way. That's something we're dedicated to. That's something we'll continue to do. And I've a few SDOT folks who work or live in West Seattle who've been riding through have sent me pictures along the way and said thank you for keeping this open, which has been really good. So we know that it's really important for people to be able to still access this on bike. And then access to local businesses. There's not a ton of small little local businesses there, but the ones that are adjacent will be maintained access for. So this is our general detour. The purple is general purpose traffic, and to the right is north, which, now I make a note to myself and Drew that we'll just throw a north arrow on this in the future. So the purple arrow shows that people general purpose traffic needs to, if they're traveling on East Marginal Way, they won't be able to continue north on East Marginal Way. They'll have to turn right eastbound on Spokane and then head up First Avenue to Atlantic. And then the green arrow is showing that port and freight traffic will still be maintained from Spokane to South Massachusetts. And next slide. Yep, next slide. This just shows right now. So like I was mentioning, we are doing the water line at Horton, and that is the little bit of orange right there is Horton, and that's where they're currently doing the water line. While they're doing this water line and then moving their way up from on Horton, then Horton to Hanford, and then at Hanford, this will be the detour route. And this is going to take, Horton will take 4 to 6 weeks. Horton to Hanford will take 4 to 6 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks roughly, and then Hanford will take 4 to 8 weeks. So we'll maintain this detour route for that duration for the next few months. But this just shows, again, general purpose traffic really accessing Horton to Hanford from First Avenue and not from East Marginal Way. And we are here. So we are in, started in March. We anticipate going 24 to 26 months for construction. We should be done before FIFA, which is not our only goal, but a goal of ours that we have. We want to be done before then. And you'll see that we are going to be moving north. Lots of construction will be going on, and it's going to be really transformative when we start putting up the bike lane and the barriers for the bike lane. Next slide. Do you want to take this one, Drew? Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Joey. So just how we're going to keep you guys informed. Many of you probably already are signed up and know this, but our project website is one of the best places to get the regular updates. We also send email updates. Those are usually done in pairs together. So always check our website for the latest information or reach out to me, and we'll get to that slide in a second. We also do have an SMS text update alerts going out. Primarily probably more for the folks who are using East Marginal and the freight community, but if you want to get the updates on what the latest detours are, anything like that, please go ahead and do that, and more information on the next slide. And we'll continue to do door-to-door outreach to businesses and the few residents in the area as construction starts to get in front of their front door to make sure we're taking care of any issues that they have, or we can mitigate any of those impacts as possible. And then continue to do things like this, community briefings throughout the life of construction. So if you have issues, you want to talk to us later, go ahead and just give us a shout. And so email us at eastmarginal@seattle.gov. We also, Michael, as you can see, we have a shorter URL, so I'll make sure you get that one. So and then text East Marginal for SMS updates, or call me, and we'll get the information you need. And I see a question here for, will pedestrians follow the same detours as bikes? I believe yes, Joey, or they will be on the sidewalk, right? You're muted if we, okay, yeah. So, but yeah, so the sidewalk will, on the west side, will still be there. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so the pedestrians will not follow general purpose traffic routing to First Avenue. Pedestrians will be able to use and access East Marginal Way. Similarly, they'll access, or they'll use the sidewalk for most of the construction, but the west side sidewalk is going to be reconstructed. So bikes and peds will be shifted around on East Marginal, but they'll always have a dedicated route. So we don't know specifically where the routing is. It's always going to depend on the phasing and what work's going on, but they'll be on East Marginal Way.
And Joey, they'll be protected when they are detoured off at like the sidewalk or into the street at any point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
We've been going extra mile to put up not just barrels between the trucks and bikes right now. We've been putting water-filled barriers to put more of an emphasis on protection for bikes. And that's something we're trying to just go a little above and beyond, because we recognize how important the safety is down there with all the trucks.
Great, thank you. While people collect their thoughts and type questions into the chat or raise hands, I do have a couple of questions. Will the project be done in phases at all? Like portions of it, or will the roadway be built first and then the bike lanes added, or will it just like straight up open all at once at the end of the project for everybody?
So it's going to be phased. Right now, first phase, and this is just the north segment, so it's just the green portion that was on the map, and
Yeah.
it's going to be, the first part will be the water main that they're going to do all the way up from Horton to Spokane, and then they'll most likely do lanes at a time. So I assume, and we don't know this specifically, they've got their schedule out, but it's still very early, so things may be shifting around, but most likely they'll focus on the roadway. And then at some point when they get a full lane done, my guess is they'll do a northbound lane fully paved, and they'll start shifting traffic around, and then they're going to have dedicated part of the roadway will just become the bike path while they start actually doing building the PBL. The barrier is kind of integral to the road, so that'll kind of go along with it. And then they also have to do rail work for the railroads, and that'll most likely come near the end.
Still negotiating that.
Somewhat. Thankfully, we've got it all worked out now.
Yeah.
For the most, knock on wood, you know, who never knows, but yeah, things have worked out pretty well with the railroads. I appreciate all their cooperation and coordination.
Yeah, this project's been going on for a long time. I'll say the last West Seattle Bike Connections meeting that we had before COVID lockdowns was about this project with Megan Hoyt. So I'll always remember her for that weird time right before lockdown. So one thing that we in West Seattle Bike Connections worked hard for was that crossing at Horton. And I think I've heard some cyclists who are worried about the path switching sides. It's like, well, isn't it better to have the, separated paths that are going in the same direction as traffic? And I think it's good to remind them of why it was designed that way, which is to avoid as many driveways as possible, because there are basically no driveways on the east side in the northern part of that route, and then, very few on the west, south of there. So there was reason behind it.
Yeah, definitely. One of the common comments from the bike communities is whenever there is a shift where they have to travel from one side of the road to the other, and always there's some reason behind why it's being done. And this is definitely, you nailed it. Getting bikes over to the east side, the what might be a small inconvenience of traveling to the east side is well worth to not have to deal with the numerous driveways for the port, and avoiding the trucks, getting them completely separated, grade separated and barrier separated from truck traffic. So getting them over the east side is in their best interest for sure.
Yeah, great.
Really quick, can you talk about how that crossing will work in the signal detection for that bike crossing? Yeah,
so it will be phased, so there will be bike loops, there will be video detection as well. So there is some state-of-the-art ITS equipment going on for the bikes. So the bikes will have a dedicated signal. They'll have a spot where they stand. Once they're in that spot, it'll call the signal, and they essentially get prioritized. So it won't be like a lot of other intersections where it's just completely timed and you just have to sit there and wait. And it's like, no one's here. What's going on? Once they're there, it prioritizes them, so they'll be able to go.
Great. I don't see any raised hands or anything in the chat, but I do have, one more little question that I'll throw at you. If there are issues, like right now, the Chelan intersection is being rebuilt, and that has had some sort of confusing detours at times. It's not completely clear where to go. And then also East Marginal Way is pretty known for road debris. And so if there are problems like that, like unclear detours, or the bike detour needs cleaning, we would go through the SDOT email address.
Yep.
Or the website, or reach out to you guys.
Yes, the fastest way will be either email us at the East Marginal or call and leave a voicemail. I monitor that as well as our outreach consultants.
Okay.
Check that daily. So yeah, if there's any issues, please give us a call. Feel free to mark it super high important. And then same goes if you're seeing the detour routes and there's just something missing on it, or you think it could be improved in any way to be a little clearer or just more user friendly. We'd love that kind of feedback and would be happy to make those adjustments on the fly.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Oh, were you willing or able to talk about the press event on Tuesday?
So we are looking to have Mayor Harrell come out and kind of officially kick us off. It's a really small event, but we have I know Kate, you're kind of involved with us on that. So small event. So we're looking forward mostly kind of promoting that afterwards on social media and kind of look out for a blog and stuff like that. But yeah, we'll be gathering some of our kind of key partners who've helped us both on a funding and design stage to make this project a reality and get us off the ground.
Little event for a big project.
Yes. But when we get to the end, that's when we're really excited when the project's done, do a big community celebration. We're going to have a lot of great stuff. So we're looking forward to, as everyone, when this project is done and we have the safety infrastructure in place to really celebrate that with the community.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I don't see any other questions or anything. So Michael, were you going to take back over at this point?
I see Deb signaling.
Oh.
Let's see. Are we having troubles unmuting Deb? Hold on. Let me try and see if I can force it again.
Okay. Am I unmuted?
Yep.
Great. Just had one quick question on the detour route. And for those who may be in May, taking East Marginal to get to downtown in order to start the private ride over the public bridge. What should people expect to see from a detour perspective in early May? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I know you're talking the bike ride over the bridge event. Yeah. Are you a ped or are you a bike, ped, or car?
Well, this would be for people who would be maybe coming from West Seattle on their bikes to get to the start of the event and then ride their bike on Highway 99 and over the West Seattle Bridge. But so it'd be early in the morning of whatever day this occurs. And that would be a bike rider, I'm assuming. So
bicyclists,
that's the only way to get from here to there.
Yeah, so essentially bicyclists will not, through the duration of construction, will not be, when we say detour, it's more of a shift. They won't see a big change in their commute. They are going to still head over the low bridge and go on East Marginal Way. It may be in the current bike lane that's striped there now that we've been riding for years, or it may be shifted over in a lane, but they're just going to be riding through. So,
okay.
Yeah, it will not change for you. Yeah, you'll be able to take
it. All right, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Right. Anyone, any last bits of questions? All right. Well, once again, I want to apologize to everyone, including our guests. I don't know what is up with the tech gods this evening, but at least it looks like Deb made it in on an iPhone. Somebody else got in. I saw one of our guests. We are now streaming to Facebook, so it feels like maybe things are settling down, and I've tried to force it to fix all the unmuting, and so hopefully that will stretch across everyone for our next bit. But let's thank Joey and Drew for joining us. And I'm sure it's been a long work day, so hopefully you guys can happily log off and go and relax or eat dinner or whatever. And thank you, Drew, for sharing the short URL as opposed to what I have here on here, but that'll be captured on the video. And we'll make sure to share that out with folks if they ask for more information. And with that, I will move us on to the next part of our agenda. I know I saw, well, so we're having a conversation with City Councilmember Rob Saka's staff, as I said before, about passing the Seattle Transportation Plan, move Seattle Levy renewal, other city transportation issues. And we are joined, I don't think I saw Layla unless she had troubles getting in, but we are joined once again by Heather Marks, who's a longtime friend of ours here at the Transportation Coalition, although she is no longer gigging at Seattle Department of Transportation, but has hopped over to the political side of things, where she is now serving as policy advisor to our city council member, Rob Saka. Do you have any slides or anything, Heather, or is just chat?
No, nope. Can you hear me?
I can, yes. I
Amazing.
will stop sharing so that we can all actually look at each other a little bit. Yeah, well, why don't you at least start a little bit with, let's see. So transportation plan passed committee, but hasn't passed council yet, correct?
Correct. Correct.
So tell us how that's going, and then how sort of levy renewal gets queued up behind that, and then we'll see
Yeah.
what questions pop out.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, I didn't, it's funny, I just didn't even think to make a PowerPoint, but maybe next time I will. Anyway, good to see all of you again. I am in a different role, working as policy advisor for City Council Member Rob Saka. Right now, we are the city council is considering the Seattle Transportation Plan. We plan to have a discussion and possible discussion of amendments coming up at our next Transportation Committee meeting on the 2nd. So that's Tuesday. And I anticipate that the Transportation Committee will vote on that on the 16th of April. We are expecting the mayor to share with the whole community a draft of his levy proposal coming up pretty soon, next week, something like that. And then we expect them to actually transmit legislation more toward the end of April. And our first conversation at the City Council Transportation Committee, we're anticipating for our first meeting in May. And then I think we have 5 meetings queued up for the regular Transportation Committee time to 10:30 until probably noon for 5 meetings, and then a couple of meetings in there we will also have an evening public hearing. So if you feel like you want to come down and give your thoughts and feelings in person, there will be a couple of opportunities to do that. That's the state of it right now.
And can you talk a little bit about how these two different documents or policy guidelines will work together? I know a lot of feedback we're hearing out in communities. People who have looked at the Seattle Transportation Plan because that's what's out, right? And they're like, well, this isn't prioritizing things very well, or it only says this really vague level of stuff. And we try to explain that, like, this is like a long-term guiding document about what are the priorities or what are some of the big projects we would expect to take down off the shelf, and that the levy then comes in with funding, and other plans then come in and say, like, all right, we're moving forward with this. Can you talk a little bit more about how that works?
So I can tell you what I know. Probably the question of exactly how the plan and the levy fit together is probably a better question for for Megan, for SDOT, when they come in and speak with you. But what I will say is you're correct, of course, that the Seattle Transportation Plan is a 20-year vision. And so it's more of a vibe than a list of things that are going to get done in a certain order. So it's an indication of priority, and it's a meaning overall priority, and how SDOT is sort of envisioning the future. Hi. I'm getting a whole different. Hi, Scott. Is everything
all right? Keep going.
everything okay?
Hope so. Hope everything's okay, Scott.
Yeah. So, and the levy is, as far as I understand it, going to be an 8-year funding plan that will fund, probably some things that are in the plan, but as you said, there are also, that's okay. We're having a night tonight with the technology. So I don't know if that's a very good answer, but I think it'll be easier for me to answer that question once I've seen both the transportation plan as well as the levy proposal. Mm-hmm.
And I don't see any questions or chat questions yet, or raised hands or chat questions yet. So I'll pursue this a little further.
Okay.
So now that you're over on the council side of things,
Uh-huh.
Are you getting a sense like how well is council working? Council seems like they're more in sync with the mayor. Like, do we expect that like what comes out from SDOT is generally going to be supported by council? I know there was a lot of talk by the newer members coming in about getting back to basics, at looking more at maintenance, at looking more at, well, certainly Councilmember Saka at like, let's literally, he went out at least once, I know already, and personally filled some potholes. So, do we think that as opposed to like this previous levy, that we might look a little bit more at that kind of smaller project, maintaining what we have versus sort of the emphasis on big projects that the previous levy had?
Well, so I'm here representing Councilmember Saka, not the whole council. So I would want to limit my my comments. I will say that it's pleasurable, like it's fun to work there. It's pretty collaborative, at least at the staff level. And I can tell you what I know you already know about Councilmember Saka, which is he really is wanting to focus on basic things like bridge safety and maintenance, like paving. He will be sure to tell you that potholes are really important as a phenomenon, but also that he uses that to talk more about sort of maintenance and how important maintenance is, because we only see potholes on roads that that really need to be fixed sort of deep down. So paving and we also know that pavement is good for all modes. So a pothole in a car is a pain, but a pothole on a bike is, a much more serious situation. In addition, Councilmember Saka wants to focus on Vision Zero and building new sidewalks. I think there's a broad understanding, and there has been a decades-long conversation about the areas in the city that don't have sidewalks, and wanting to really sort of refocus on making sure that in the city of Seattle we have that basic metropolitan and municipal infrastructure of sidewalks. Another thing that he talks a lot about is electric vehicle infrastructure. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that climate change response of shifting us to a more electric transportation system gets addressed in the levy.
Well, speaking for my family, we would definitely like to see more electric vehicle infrastructure here.
You are not alone.
We ended up we have a hybrid, plug-in hybrid,
Uh-huh.
which we got a little sooner than we expected to. So we did not have, at the time, we didn't have any sort of plug set up at home for the garage. And so we took a lot of advantage of, if folks don't know, there's a charging station over by the ferry dock.
Oh,
And so we would quite often just drive over there, plug in, then go for a walk in Lincoln Park, and then get back in the car and drive home.
yeah,
So that
that's
was a lot of
great.
fun. But more opportunities around the neighborhood
Yeah.
would be good. And then
Okay.
Vision Zero, we will have we'll be having guests from Vision Zero SDOT to talk about Vision Zero at our next meeting in May.
Great.
We decided not to pile all of the SDOT and city transportation discussion in this meeting. And yeah, so that's a big priority for us. You know, there are members of the coalition who knew the bicyclist who was recently killed over you know, over closer to Fauntleroy.
Yeah.
You know, there are a lot of folks who know the bicyclist who got killed in on Harbor Island.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of things that have happened around here the last couple of years. So we'd definitely like to see a bit of focus on not just roadway safety, but specifically bicycle safety and how do we sort of, you know, do more separated bike lanes, like we also just heard about from our SDOT colleagues.
Right.
So yeah,
Okay.
and I see Kate ready to ask a question.
Hi, Kate.
Hello. Long time
Good
no
to see your
see, huh?
face. Yeah.
So, I'm gonna say the sidewalks are expensive and paving is expensive. And Vision Zero is going to involve things like bike lanes and, you know, and structures and things that cost money. So we have the levy, but is the council considering any of the other revenue options that like were raised by the Progressive Revenue Task Force or impact fees or, you know, outside the box ideas?
Yeah. This is another thing that Councilmember Saka talks about a lot. The ideas that were brought forth by the Progressive Revenue Group. Turns out those options weren't vetted by the city attorney's office, and there are some of them that are not legal for the city to enact. And so Washington State is a state where the legislature, the state has all the cookies. And so in order for us to enact some of those more progressive revenue sources, we would need a specific permission from the state. So I think there is, in general, a broad desire to make sure that we are spending the money that we have now in the best way possible. And to the extent that the city council wants to look at other revenue sources, I think we would want to have that conversation after we understand a little bit more about what the levy proposal is going to look like and what that proposal is going to be able to do. And then, of course, just like with every other transportation levy, there have been two. The city council is, going to take its full opportunity to adjust that proposal to a way that they view. TIFs are legal in Washington, but a vacancy tax isn't. So we'll see what the proposal looks like, and then we'll see how the city council changes it and presents it to the voters.
Okay, great. And I just want to remind you that fix it first is
Yes.
great, but if it's broken, don't just refix it the way it was. You know,
Yeah.
I just feel like there are a lot of roads that, you know, if they got repaved, it would be a shame if they were just like repaved and restriped the way they were before.
Yeah, and Kate, you know, you know this, but maybe others don't. The city of Seattle has completes an ordinance that's called Complete Streets, and so every time SDOT goes in to do a reconstruction of a street, they have to take into consideration all of those things, including new sidewalks and making sure that all of the things that make a street a place that we want to use are included, and that includes bike lanes.
Great, thank you.
Scott, are you able to unmute? You are. Good. Take it away. Or maybe not. If you're talking, Scott, we can't hear you. Oh, well, we seem to have lost Scott. All right. Well, hopefully he will come back.
Scott, I'm very happy to answer any question you might have.
It is quite an evening to be running tech. I will. Well, I will ask one last thing then, unless Scott comes
Okay.
back. Since it's very quiet tonight. This may be a surprise, but there's Scott trying to come in. I'm going to pitch for parking, believe it or not. An idea brought up around the city parking tax, which has been a bit of a controversy in West Seattle ever since it drove up prices and affected the parking lots in the junction.
Mhm.
Wondering if, well, you as the policy advisor, I guess, rather than Councilmember Saka himself, but if someone has given any thought to looking into, is it possible to structure a parking tax in a way that essentially says, if your private parking lot
Mhm.
is available to the public, say evenings after 6 p.m. or on weekends, you know, for free, that
Mhm.
the city would say this is a benefit for the public, and
Mm.
therefore if that is a public benefit you offer, then you could have a lower percentage for the tax, or maybe even be exempt from the tax. I don't know if that's a legal option, but I know in small neighborhood districts like the Junction or in some other
Mhm.
areas where local businesses have parking that's there to sort of, you know, encourage people to come and spend locally,
Mhm.
that they've gotten dinged very significantly the last few years
Mhm.
by the increase in the commercial parking tax, which generally we are very supportive of as transit
Right.
advocates and transportation advocates, but we don't want to
Yeah.
screw over our small mom and pop businesses. So
Yeah.
that's an idea that I just want to float out there for
Yeah,
someone to
you
look
know, I
at.
appreciate that idea. And you know, all thoughts are welcome. I don't know enough about that to have an opinion. But you know, but we can talk about that later and see if that's something that we want to explore.
All right, Scott, I see you rejoined us. So hopefully, either you
Yeah,
can.
let's second round try. Does this
All
work?
right. Yes, we can hear
Yes.
you.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Heather, for joining. I don't join these coalition meetings not often enough, but I was interested to hear what was going on with Marginal Way. I'm a West Seattle resident. I was curious about the levy. Sounds like there's a big emphasis on just like basic operations and maintenance, which I thought SDOT was like funded to do normally. So I'm curious if there's been any discussions on like how to sell voters on the projects or on the levy in general. And, you know, it seems like maybe some attention grabbing projects would be good. Like, I'm even
Like
thinking
lighting
like,
I-5? Scott?
Well, I was gonna say reconnect South Park in District 1, or yeah, Living I-5, which is probably the granddaddy of potholes in the city.
Yeah.
Just wondering, like, what's the appetite for visionary stuff versus basic maintenance at this point?
Right. So Scott, I haven't seen the levy proposal yet. That hasn't been released to the city council or anyone else as far as I know. So I don't know what's contained in there. I don't think that I wouldn't want my words to indicate that there's absolutely no appetite for visionary things. It's just that we haven't seen the levy. And so not knowing what's in there, it's hard to predict how the city council might react.
Okay, and it sounded like there's gonna be like a month-long process before council takes up legislation, so we'll have a chance for input.
Yeah, of course. I suspect you have a chance for input now. So yeah, you should definitely share your thoughts with SDOT and the mayor's office. And then if you don't see what you like, then of course you can take your advocacy to the city council.
Great, thanks for being here.
Of course.
All
Kate-
right, Kate,
Kate,
we'll let
you
you have
have-
the last word there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering, who proposes the levy at this point? Is it SDOT or is it the mayor's office?
Well, SDOT works for the mayor. So SDOT's like the implementation arm. So they have put together the proposal, but then it will be the mayor's, ultimately the mayor's proposal that ends up at the feet of the council.
Kind of like the transportation plan
Right.
is happening right
Exactly.
now. Okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
great, thank you. It does
You're
look like
welcome.
Deb's got a question,
Yep, I see
so
Deb
maybe she
trying
can
to
sneak one in.
Yep.
Yep, I'm gonna try punching a whole bunch of buttons here and seeing, there we go. Hey, hi.
Hi.
I'm just, again, so glad that you've taken the big jump into District 1 land and the political end of the council. So welcome, welcome to that world. Had a question just today. Sound Transit Board had some interesting goings on at their meeting. So my thought is, or my question is, what's Councilmember Saka's interest right now, or a level of involvement in the future decisions of the Sound Transit Board? Is he, I think I'll leave it at that. Just curious what his level of interest and or involvement is.
Well, because the next line is coming to West Seattle, of course, his interest is keen. He does not sit on the Sound Transit Board, and so he doesn't have any decision-making authority there.
Correct.
Right. And so we're definitely following along as an office. And we know that the light rail line is going to have that's Dewey. The light rail line is obviously the construction and preparation is going to have a big impact, and so we will be following those issues as we get closer and closer to the board selecting a preferred alternative, and then of course as construction starts to get underway.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I
All right.
remember, Dewey was the kitty you got when the bridge was broken?
Well, Deb, I got 3 cats, one
Okay.
for each year that I worked on the West Seattle Bridge, and Dewey is the youngest. Yes.
Okay, well, hey, welcome Dewey.
Some-
Thanks.
something had to be cute and funny. when
I
the bridge
know.
was down, so
Totally, I know. Thanks.
thank you.
All right. And with that, let's thank Heather for once again joining us and
Very
sharing-
happy to be here.
sharing
Thanks so
her
much.
wisdom and answering questions. Again, if you want to learn more about council member's office, the other staff members, how to get a hold of everybody, You can go to seattle.gov/council/Saka, SAKA. If you want to learn more about the Seattle Transportation Plan, I I did look intentionally for a short URL for this because I know we must have one, and I could not find it anywhere. So this is the website that I found from SDOT for the Seattle Transportation Plan. And so folks are welcome to check that out. But I'm going to move us forward, and Heather, have a good evening. All right, continuing on, I have old business on the agenda, but I didn't put anything there. I'm not aware of any old business we have hanging out over us. Do any of the board members have anything that I'm missing? Otherwise, we'll jump ahead really quickly and save 15 minutes and move on to new business.
I still want to rehash the website, but I haven't managed to make any headway there. So,
All right, we can
Yeah.
talk more about that in the board meeting.
yeah.
All right, so new business really quickly. I want to bring up a few things for folks to have on their radar. First of all, if you have not already heard, Cascade Bicycle Club's Emerald City Ride this year, which is May 5th, I believe that's a Saturday, is coming to West Seattle. And among the highlights that will be happening with that is folks who've been dreaming about, you can't walk, but if you've been dreaming about riding over the West Seattle Bridge, here is your opportunity to ride a bicycle over the West Seattle Bridge. I think you're crazy or amazingly in shape, because if you haven't thought about the grade that is going up over the high portion there, might want to go and stare at that a little bit more. But for those really fit Cascade Bicycle Club folks, they're gonna have an exciting view from up top there. I see, Kate, you got your e-bike. That will probably help for a lot of people. Yes. We should also probably chat. I don't know. Is that something? Maybe we can talk more offline, board members. But whether that's something we want to look at supporting in some way. I don't know if there's opportunity for information table or help support a snack table somewhere or water table kind of a thing. But it certainly does seem like a nice nexus for supporting transportation and welcoming folks and letting them know that we exist over here. I don't know, Kate, if West Seattle West Seattle Bike Connections has thought about that at all. Oh, I see Scott's going to be on the ride. Yes, we could also do something for Bike Everywhere Day as well.
It's going to be, I think, thousands of cyclists on that Emerald City Ride. So it's a big event.
I'm sure it's going to be a huge event. It is a paid entry, but presumably that raises lots of money for lobbying for all sorts of good causes that we tend to support here at the Transportation Coalition. And I know I shared their Facebook event link on our Facebook event page. But I should have looked for the URL here, but it's easy enough to Google Emerald City Ride and you should find it. Looking at the WSTC calendar, our next meeting is May 23rd, and we have a whole bunch of stuff lined up already. I feel like we're sort of somehow oddly well prepared this year in ways we haven't been before. So as I mentioned in conversation a little while ago, we do have more guests coming from SDOT at our next meeting to talk about Vision Zero. We've been kind of wanting to get them out to us for a while, but they've been pulling various bits of data together and then looking at their ideas and things that are going into the levy and stuff. So they should have a lot to talk to us about. We also have the Northwest Seaport Alliance scheduled to come and give us an update on T5. and how work's been going on the quiet zone, as well as we just believe we just saw the first like super huge ship come into the new berth, right? I think the first time the south berth. Maybe somebody has more details, or I'm sure Tracy covered it in the blog, and one could find the details that I'm not remembering. But I do know that we've got ships coming in, and so that's kicked up a lot more activity. And then we also will have it'll be time once again for nominations and board elections. And that I have some news to share on that front. That one of our board members, who actually would not normally be up for re-election, but one of our board members, Phil Frick, has notified me that he is stepping down and resigning from the board. Some folks on the call may know that Phil has been having some health issues, and things are so far so good. But he and his family has decided that he needs to be a little less committed in the community than he has been the last couple of years. And we are one of those commitments that he will be letting go of, so that he can focus a little bit more intently on his health recovery. But he promises that he's going to work to find a replacement for himself. So we wish him well. We're also looking at some of the future meeting topics. We are looking to bring that Ryan. We were supposed to have Ryan earlier, Ryan Packer from the Urbanist, earlier this year as part of our continuing Chat with a Reporter series. And we are hoping to have him back again, maybe in the summer. And then we are still looking at bringing in, I think I actually listed there, King County Councilmember Teresa Mosqueda, our former city council member. We would love to have her or one of her staff in to talk about funding for Metro. But also we've really been after Metro again about planning for future bus routes. And we're hearing a little bit of a taster that maybe they will be finally ready next year, to start looking at planning for reorganization of some of the routes here in the Southwest. And so we'd like to chat with some of our contacts over there before the end of the year about how we make sure that we can get into that queue and help educate the public about what the possibilities are, and maybe get some ideas, maybe pull some engineers to give them direct feedback from our folks, which is, one of those things that we like to do. So that is all the sorts of stuff that I have there to tease people with in the next several months. And that's all I have on the agenda. Does anyone have other items they need to bring up? All right. Well, not hearing anything, we may wrap up really early this month. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
All right. Is there a
And
second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Right. Any opposed? Well, with that, I will stop sharing, and I will stop our live stream. Where is my stop recording?